Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I get to learn about somebody else's perspective on movies. And for the first time, fellow film reviewer Grant Taylor, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey man, how are you? It's always it's always nice to be acknowledged by someone I already admired before I was doing this. So
Well, that's
there you
very sweet of you. So we'll have some fun talking some movies then.
Oh yeah.
But Grant, before I jump in, would you like to shamelessly plug where people can find your work?
Do I have to? No, I'm just kidding. Sure, absolutely. I'm on everything, whether I like it or not. Um, I'm on who's on music board? Nobody. Me and Fritzky, like the only people on music board. But I'm on music board. I'm also on Blue Sky. If you're one of the people who got the invite, they're all raised on Popcorn with Grant. I'm on Letterbox here on YouTube. I have a second channel on YouTube called More Popcorn with Grant. Currently, it's dead. We attempted to. Well, we're gonna do stuff on it. We attempted to do a bad movie night watch along of Nights of the Zodiac, and it failed miserably because my connection is shit. So
Oh no.
we're gonna do eventually. Um yeah, like Facebook, Instagram. I have a Facebook page, a personal account, but I also have a Facebook
Yep.
page for the channel. Instagram, Twitter. I'm not calling it X. No, sorry, Elon. I'm not calling it X. It's Twitter. I'm on Threads because why not?
Yeah, why
I'm on all
not?
the I'm all on all the Twitter adjacent networks. Music board, Letterbox, serialized. Um, am I missing a TikTok?
I'll be throwing a bunch
Twitch,
of them into the
Twitch.
description so people can find you.
Yeah, Twitch. I never use it other than to watch other people's streams. Like I use it to watch Double Toasted every Sunday night when they do
Nice.
yeah. Um, I was gonna jokingly say I have an ASMR channel, but honestly, I've lost track of it. I might end up actually having one. Um, watch me
Very
eat
nice.
popcorn all day. Um, and that cover it? I don't know if it did or not. I'm on everything.
Well, if they connect with you in some of those places, I'm sure they'll find your way to the other places as well.
Mm, yeah, probably go
But
down that rabbit hole.
oh, we love that rabbit hole. But to get things started, I always love asking this question because people either have like a definitive answer or hate me for asking it. But Grant, what's your favorite film?
Okay, you ever see the movie The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent? You would also
Yes.
know that it's impossible to answer. The okay, if we're going, I have two answers, but they're
Okay.
not necessarily they're. I split it in kind of in two. What is my personal favorite movie, and what's I think the best movie? I think the best movie ever made, quite frankly, is Pulp Fiction. I
Okay.
understand that that's an easy answer. My favorite movie is Clerks
Nice.
because it's the movie that made me love movies. But and then oh, actually, it's three. The third answer is the correct answer, which is it's Paddington 2. Of course it is.
Of
Of
course
course
it
it's
is.
Paddington 2.
See,
Paddington 2 is
even
awesome.
Nick Cage knows that too.
Right.
Because
Rotten
Paddington 2
Tomatoes
is the
says
most
so.
perfect film ever made. So
It's go on Rotten Tomatoes. It's in writing. It's the best reviewed movie ever. Yeah.
I just remember that original one guy
Oh,
had to
and
give it a rotten review.
did you? It was either Armand White or an Armand White type. Like someone who I wait with bated breath. I was talking to a friend of mine when I'm sorry, this is a little bit of a tangent. When Taylor Swift the Eras tour came out, and I was
Uh,
like, it's at 100% justified. It's going to be on my best of list. I'm just going to spoiler
yeah.
alert. So, I can't wait to watch the director's cut. Said, oh, it's 100. It's going to stay. It's going to be 100 for good. And I said, you just wait. Tomorrow, Armand White is going to make up some BS without seeing the movie about how Taylor Swift is idol worship and that you shouldn't be brainwashing your kids, you dirty rotten libs. And then I went on Rotten Tomatoes. Look who knocked it to 99% and whose whole review is about idolatry. Armand White, number one with a bullet.
Well, there you go. So heard it here first. Grant is also a prophet. Sees the future.
And I'm also a dirty, rotten liberal, so if you don't like that, you're not going to like much of my content.
Well, that's very fair. Now, Grant, what's your earliest memory of going to the movies?
Oh, I got one that. Here's the thing. My earliest memory of going to the movies isn't. I remember. How do I put this? The first movie I saw in a theater, I was almost 4, and I
Uh-huh.
remember it vividly. I don't. It depending on which movie came out first. I saw 2 movies that year:
Mhm.
Hercules with the animated one,
Yeah.
and Good Burger. So whichever one came out first was my earliest memory. I'm pretty sure it was Hercules, but I
There you
might be
go.
wrong.
What a wonderful combination of peak Disney animation and just the most 90s thing you're gonna find.
Well,
So
like it reminds me of, and I mean this with affection to both movies because I love both movies. It's like that thing that John Mulaney says about how he hates Scarface, and when people use Scarface in connection with The Godfather, he says it's like lobster and Skittles, like acting like that's the same thing.
I've never heard that bit, but I'm pretty sure that was me who said that. Uh, not the biggest fan of Scarface, but love The Godfather.
Of
So
course.
there you go. Now, Grant, what's your favorite genre of film?
Oh, geez. I'm gonna sound like the whitest guest you've ever had when I say this. I like can I say it's kind of a complicated one. I like indie coming of age movies with a soundtrack that's mostly the Strokes. Does that count as
That is very specific, but if that's your favorite, go with it.
is Cameron Crowe a genre? Can we make Cameron Crowe and movies like Cameron Crowe movies a genre?
Kind of feels that way, so I can appreciate that.
um well just to put it on your radar, the last time I'm a comic book nerd, and the last time a comic book movie was number 1 on my list, it was The Dark Knight, and I was like 14. So there you go.
There you go.
uh
I love that Cameron Crowe. I do love
oh
Almost
yeah.
Famous. I love that movie very much.
Okay, when I say Cameron Crowe, let's put it this way. I mean Cameron Crowe, everything before Elizabethtown. Cameron Crowe.
We're not talking about Aloha.
I actually don't hate Aloha as much as some people. I think it's a horrible mess at times. I think it doesn't know what kind of movie it wants to be. Elizabethtown is a pretty bad movie that I'm glad exists because it gave us Mark Kermode's greatest review ever, where he's just calling Orlando Bloom like a less talented Donny Osmond for 2 minutes.
My God. I would never have thought that connection comparison, but there you go. Now, I don't know if this is going to be your answer too, but who's your favorite filmmaker?
Okay, the one it has to be the one that gave me a hug, Kevin Smith.
There you go.
He also is my. I thought I could be a screenwriter, and then I tried to go to school for it, and I said maybe I should just review movies because I'm never going to be as good as Kevin Smith is at writing dialogue. Oh
Well, Kevin Smith certainly has inspired a lot of people,
yeah,
and boy, was I super happy when Clerks 3 came out. And I'm
it was
like,
on my best of list. Nobody else had it
within
except
the
me.
first 5 minutes, it felt like, oh, wait a minute. This actually feels like Kevin Smith again.
Clerks 3. I'll tell you what. My brother and I, that fulfilled two things that two aspects of my personality: my love of movies and my love of music I used to listen to in middle school. Because in the first 5 minutes, when the Welcome to the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance, I
Yes.
I broke the code of conduct for 2 seconds to text my brother and go, "Holy shit! Me and Austin are seeing Clerks 3. You're never gonna believe what the needle drop at the beginning is."
Oh, that hit a very specific. Like I'm sitting at home watching it, I'm like, wait a minute.
It almost feels too perfect. It's like it feels like it's 2006 again. I'm like, oh, they haven't had a Clerks movie since then.
You just like get transported back to the mid 2000s, the mid aughts, and you're just like, wait a minute. But
I
oh, that
remember.
I do love Kevin Smith, so
That is a perfect trilogy. I think that it's like Toy Story until they decided not to. Although I like Toy Story 4, but please don't make Toy Story 5.
they
Stop
are.
all your head.
So sorry to break it to you, Grant.
You already made Toy Story 5. It was called Lightyear.
Well, they specifically made sure that it was not. But now they feel obligated to make it. So
I know.
but
Because people got mad because they decided to have a different voice actor for a movie that's not in the same universe, and everybody lost their mind.
And number one person who lost their mind, Tim Allen.
Well, actually, I kind of remember. Here's the thing. Tim Allen responded, and he didn't seem to be necessarily in love with the idea, but he wasn't feeding it because people actually confronted him like, "Oh, Disney doesn't like you because you're conservative," and he responded on Twitter like, "I don't know, dude. I'm doing a Santa Claus TV show. Like, I don't think they don't like me anymore."
Disney rolled up with a dump truck full of money and dropped it on his front lawn. It's like, you want to do the Santa Clauses? It's just like.
That must have been the thing that got Liam Neeson to do Taken 3 after he said in that one interview, "Oh, well, what? Are you going to Taken 3? I don't know. Are they just going to take that girl again? Like, how are we going to do this?"
Oh, I wish that it was that. It did not turn out to be that way.
I wish we could just have a movie that is good alone without having crappy sequels like Taken had.
They should have just, they're like, this was supposed to be a straight to $5 DVD bin action thriller, and then it became a massive hit and should have just let it lie.
Well, because it actually turned out to be better than we thought it was going to be. It actually kind
of... And then they're like, well, money. So
right.
Now, looking in front of the camera, who are some of your favorite actors or actresses?
Oh, man. Can I... Okay, I hate to do this because the Oscars need to stop doing it, but do you mind if I gender my answer a little bit? Sure. If I'm talking male, I gotta honestly just because I love my day brightens up when I see him pop up in anything. Ryan Gosling. There's just something about that guy. He's such a good actor. And then if I wasn't entirely certain, then Barbie sealed it for me. Like this guy is I just love Ryan Gosling. I can't help it. If it wasn't that, it was Saturday Night Live. I started to be like, when they did that Property Brothers skit where he was the brother that went to live with their dad when the mom and dad got divorced, and he's like a goth edgelord dude, and I was like, I think I like this Ryan Gosling, and then Barbie happened, and I was like, okay, I love this man. I think it was around the time he was singing Matchbox 20 in the Rob Thomas voice.
Yep.
But I was like, okay, you know what?
And they're just like, I can't believe this movie's going here.
It's just the inflection in his voice. It's just like, oh my god. Yeah. So, Ryan Gosling, and then actress. There are so many good ones. There's so many good actresses. You got Rachel McAdams. I love her. Hope she gets an Oscar nomination for the movie she was in this year that nobody saw, sadly.
Oh, she's so good.
Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret, is the answer to that, Little Kids. You know what? I'm gonna have to go with my beautiful, beautiful queen, and I'm gonna have to go with Margot Robbie. If you don't mind me simping for a moment. That's another actor that, like, when she pops up and stuff, I just immediately am like, yeah, this movie's gonna be good. Yep. You just know. It's like, okay. Or at least when you're on screen. Like, Suicide Squad is objectively terrible, but when she's in it, it's like, you know what? Maybe this movie doesn't suck so bad. And then you remember, oh, wait, we're watching Suicide Squad. Whenever it's Will Smith and his daughter, it's like, okay, yeah, we're watching Suicide Squad.
Like, we could be watching Harley.
We could be watching The Suicide Squad instead. The good one.
Absolutely. Now, Grant, what's a film that you could watch, like, literally every day?
I was going to say Clerks, but I already gave that answer, so I'm going to say Scott Pilgrim versus the World, because I get something new every time I watch it. I notice something. Also, the Scott Pilgrim anime, really great and really surprising.
That, I didn't know what to expect from it. Yeah. And it took it in a whole other direction. But no.
I genuinely, a friend of mine DM'd me after I said I was finished, and he said, your live tweeting play by play of, or like your live text while watching the Scott Pilgrim anime are the best movie of the year. Because as like I literally when that first episode happened, I'm not going to spoil it because I want you guys to see it.
Yeah.
But I went in thinking, oh, this is going to be the comics. This is going to straight
Yeah.
up adapt it. And then the thing happens at the end of the first episode, and I literally said, "What the? You can't do that! No! Wait a second, what?"
And then you're like, by the end, I'm like, wow, that was bold. That was interesting. That
I
was
actually
different.
care about the supporting characters for the first time in this whole franchise.
Yeah. It wasn't just like, oh my God, this person becomes so famous. Like just
I never thought I love Chris Evans. I never thought I could actually give a shit about Lucas Lee until I watched that show.
I'm just gonna ride my skateboard.
Dude, when Liam Lynch talk about again middle school memories, the United States of whatever in the skate montage, like, oh right.
But no, Scott Pilgrim's a great choice.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
Grant, what's a film that you really connect with because it relates to another interest of yours?
Now when I looked at your questions, this one was the hardest for me. Honestly, this is gonna be a cheat, kind of. I'm gonna be real about it. But I'm gonna say Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because it's a movie about
About
movies.
movies.
I just love movies, and again, I love other things too, but the movies are where my passions lie. However, I guess if you really want me to answer correctly, this is gonna sound really silly. I did you ever see there was a movie that came out? A lot of people didn't see it. It was Mike Judge directed. It was called Extract. It had Jason Bateman.
Yes. Uh,
I loved that movie because if I wasn't going to do something movie related, my last resort would be I always am fascinated with flavorings,
hmm.
like the extracts. I would work at an extract factory. I try to like make extracts, and so I when I watched that movie, I'm like, this is like the first comedy I've seen that's actually passionate about flavorings. I kind of am interested. Like when Jason Bateman is talking to Mila Kunis about how he wanted to figure out how his mom made a batch of cookies just that way, taste just right. I was like, yeah, I'm kind of interested in that too. Okay.
Only Mike Judge
Right.
would make that movie, and it worked. And when you have Jason Bateman, it really works.
I have never seen a filmmaker who is more brilliant all the time and is also more self-hating all the time than Mike Judge. Because Mike Judge, every time he has a new movie come out, everyone who loves him, which is everybody, says, "Oh, this movie's brilliant. It's another winner from Mike Judge." And he's always like, "No, no, no. I hate the ending. I would rewrite everything. I didn't like this." Like when Office Space came out, I said that has got to be the most perfect last 15 minutes of a comedy I've ever seen. I stand by it. It's brilliant irony. And then the interview goes, "Man, if it were up to me, I would have rewritten the entire last 20 minutes of Office Space and did it completely differently." I'm like, "No, Mike, no."
I just like,
The guy finds purpose in life cleaning up the wreckage of the office that sucked the life out of him. That is brilliant.
brilliant.
It's
In the words of the film,
yeah.
no, just no. If you said something like that, you'll get beat up for something. So get your ass kicked for saying something like that.
I watch your cornhole, man. I love talk about a movie that like people always talk about Jason Bateman. You know what I think is the best deadpan actor that like nobody talks about, who's always in stuff, but you never really. Ron Livingston, man, that dude in Office Space, like the scene where Jennifer Aniston and him are in the car and they're talking about his scheme. They're fighting, and he thinks she slept with Lumberg, but it wasn't that Lumberg. And they're in the car, and she's talking about, what? How dare you pull rank on me? Like, you think you're special? You're some wannabe criminal man. And he's just like, just deadpan, just, like takes a deep breath and goes, "Well, that may be, but at least I never slept with Lumberg." It's just perfect. It's like yes.
Oh, Office Space is amazing. Nobody showed up to this, but I had an event on campus at the college that I work at, and it was for the business school, and it was an Office Space movie night. And
Rad.
I was gonna have all the students come up with a plan to improve in attack, but then nobody showed up. And I'm like,
I
you
would have
all
been
are
there in a heartbeat.
missing out.
And then the party would end with us buying a copier and then dragging it out into the middle of the grass while horrorcore gangster rap plays and we beat the living hell out of it.
Oh, I've been there. I've had copy machines in my office that I 100% wanted to take out to the loading dock out back and just beat to pieces. The best part is when Michael Bolton just gets down on his knees and starts punching it. And you're just like, what's going on here?
It's
So
great,
good.
and you ever have this? Man, I'm sorry for all the tangents. I apologize.
No?
It's just how my weird brain operates. Do you ever have this sensation where you watch a show that is built on pop culture references, like say like Family Guy or Robot Chicken,
Uh,
and you watch it when you're younger and you don't know what they're referencing, and then you eventually see what they're referencing, and it makes the bit funnier. So
mhm.
like when they did that bit with Surfing Bird, where they do the song and they're beating it up, I was like, that's really funny. And then I saw Office Space, and I'm like, oh, wait a second. The
Oh,
same thing happened with Harold and Maude. They had like a Harold and Maude joke.
I've certainly had those moments with Shrek. You know, rewatching Shrek 2 and just being like, they made an O.J. Simpson joke about a
Oh yeah.
white Bronco. And I'm like, oh, when I was 13, I didn't get this joke.
And I got the when I was a kid, when I saw the first Shrek, I Charlie's Angels had already come out. So the fact that it was Cameron Diaz, I watched that and I was like, when they did the freeze frame kick, I'm like, oh, like Charlie's Angels. And then later I saw The Matrix in high school and I was like,
Oh,
oh,
wait,
wait a second.
that's what that's actually from.
Have,
Now, Grant,
yeah,
who's a movie character that you connect with on a personal level?
Randall Graves. Oh, 100% Randall Graves. I'll tell you something. Um, Also, I guess this doesn't count as a movie character. Although, to be fair, the character there it's a character from a TV show, but the TV show was a movie at one point with that
Mhm.
character, so I feel like counts. Butters from South Park. I am 100% Butters. Getting in
That's
trouble for
me.
things that I don't do. Um,
Oh, please just tell me that you don't grow up to sell NFTs. Like,
I don't
like
grow up to sell NFTs, but one time when I was tripping pretty hard, I did imagine that I summoned the ghost of Biggie Smalls. I don't know how that happened, but he did try to pop a cap in my ass. I really don't know how that happened.
Butters is
Needless to
fun,
say,
and of course, Randall. Randall's
well,
good.
Randall, because I don't. Here's the thing. I would. I think I'm an. Wow, way to talk myself up. I feel like I'm a nicer person than Randall. Like Randall's kind of an asshole, but the thing
But nobody
is like
wants to be a Dante.
nobody wants to be a Dante because he's a schmuck. And then also, the thing is that I feel like I'm Randall in a weird sense. It's almost like a combination because I feel like I'm a nice enough person or respectable enough person, but then also like if someone is really irritating me, I'm the first person. If you're sitting in a room and someone's like, "Okay, well, that's great," he goes, "Why are you talking in like a Disney voice? The guy's being a fucker." Like the first person to be like, "Yeah, dude, nobody invited you. Go home." Like I can be nasty when I'm really pushed
It's
to
like,
it.
you know, I would really love this job if it wasn't for the customers.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, what's a film that you love that would surprise people?
Oh, I think we talked about it before we went on. Dark Shadows. I love that movie. I genuinely think that movie has merit and was slept on because people went in expecting another Johnny Depp Tim Burton collabo, and it was better than that.
Well, and I definitely, I'm guessing anybody who went in expecting like the show Dark Shadows, which I don't know how many people even knew it was a show at that point when they went to go see it, because it was like I think that was like from like the 70s or 80s, just
It
like
was it was the '60s or even.
60s.
I
Yeah.
remember when I went to see the movie. I'm like, oh, I love Dark Shadows, and someone I know. My dad watched the show religiously, and he loves the movie. But the thing is that my mom said, like, oh, it was pretty good. I prefer the show though. And then I looked on Netflix, and at the time when Netflix wasn't making original stuff. That was like 2012. They would
Yeah.
often have like they would have SNL episodes that were like 2 weeks old because they could. It was
Yeah.
almost like Hulu went with it, and so they had like 100 episodes of Dark Shadows, just like random because it was a soap opera, so it ran for like
Yeah.
thousands of episodes. And I watched like 2 episodes of it, and I was just like, this, this is what you guys were so butthurt about them ruining. Like the boom mic's in the shot, and they're saying like there's a part in one episode I watched, and I remember it distinctively where it was before the vampire shows up. It was like when because I think Barnabas Collins doesn't show up until like episode 257 or something, and it was like these two characters were talking, and the one woman, I guess who's supposed to be like Victoria Winters, is like sitting there, and she accidentally starts to say like, "All right, exit stage left." I mean, and she says the stage directions by accident, and then like just keeps it going, and just kind of and then kind of like does it over. And I was like, wow, that is like a really bad. No, don't do that.
Well, that sounds campy and ridiculous enough to
Oh,
be
yeah.
entertaining.
And if it was doing it on purpose, like if it was doing it like, if it was like a Mel Brooksy kind of thing where it was doing it to break the fourth wall, that would be one thing. But I think it was sincere. I think it was just a mistake they left
Or they did it
in.
so well and felt so authentic that it could only seem like that was done by accident.
Like some Tim and Eric like anti-humor thing where it's like it's I don't know if you watch. Do you ever watch Red Letter Media?
Yes.
Okay, did you watch? They did a half in the bag this week where it was like they do it every year where they do a bunch of the obscure stuff they couldn't make a single video about that they just talk about.
I haven't watched the newest one, but I definitely know what you're talking about.
Well, they were talking about. I think it was something like mentioning a show with a house in it or something like. Have you seen? Or no, they were talking about Beef, the TV show Beef,
Yeah.
with which I haven't seen yet, but I heard it's really good.
I'm so close to getting to it on my watch list.
Me
So,
too. I
dude.
haven't finished Wednesday yet. I'm still 2 episodes into Wednesday, and I haven't gotten any further since last Christmas. I don't have a lot of time for shows lately. It's been a lot of movies, but as you can probably tell if you're on my channel, I say movie and TV guy. Where's the TV? Um, but they mentioned Beef and like, have you seen Beef? And then Mike or Jay's like, no, I've seen Beef House, and then it just cuts to a random clip of Beef House with Tim and Eric, and he goes, it's not a like, but it's not available anywhere to buy. And he goes, thanks, David Zaslav, and then it just cuts to a clip of someone farting. Then it cuts to Mike, and he's just like, David, stupid, or something like that. I was losing it. I was crying.
They are from the Brag. They certainly are very funny.
Fuck movies.
But Grant, my last question for you is: what do you love most about movies?
Do you mind if I get a little pretentious with you for a second?
Get as pretentious as you want.
Oh, everybody knows I'm pretentious. It's fine. My favorite movie of the year so far is Of an Age. I'm pretentious as hell. So it's my favorite form of art. What I love about movies is the same thing people love about paintings or about classical music. To me, movies, when they're great, let me put it to you this way. Roger Ebert. You know Roger Ebert. Duh. Everybody knows who Roger Ebert is.
I'm gonna just casually grab my DVD of his bio. It's the documentary about him.
I have the Blu-ray in my
Very nice.
I think that was actually the only like one of only 2 times that a documentary was my number one on my best of list. I think the other time was Won't You Be My Neighbor was my number one in 2018. It there was one quote that he had that he said at some film festival, and it always stuck with me. And I was like, he gets it. He gets it. And it was he says, someone asked him the same question you asked me, kind sir, which was, why do you love film? Why is it your favorite art form? And he said something to the extent of, it's like what I love about film is it's a machine that generates empathy. Mm-hmm. It helps us to see each other. It helps us to understand the people we're sharing this journey with and see them differently and see them in fresh. And when a movie's really working, it gets to the heart of who we are as people.
Mhm.
That really stuck with me. And when he died, that was the quote I put on my tribute to him, is because I just thought that was a beautiful, you know,
It is.
it's and like when I think of like the movies this year, because this has been a really good year for movies.
Mhm.
And that's the other thing is I always hate I find myself I was talking to someone very close to me who sees almost okay, nobody sees as many movies in my life as I do, but like sees a lot of them and they said like, man, there's not been a lot of great movies this year. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like what are you only is the most high profile movie you've seen is Oppenheimer? Like there's other movies out. Like and that was and I loved Oppenheimer and I
Yeah.
loved Barbie. But like when I think of like the holdovers, which I loved,
Yeah.
or Of an Age, which also was my only critic screening in person. That was really an experience.
Nice.
Somebody walked out the second the two guys started kissing. Like, okay, cool. I think that was just someone they gave a free ticket to. He also was shushing a guy who wasn't saying anything before it started and then walked out.
What a what a clue there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why are you here then, dog? Like, you shouldn't. Did you just not know a thing going in, or like? But like when I think of that, or I think of like Past Lives,
Yep.
Killers of the Flower Moon, that's what I think really hits about them for me is this idea of empathy, um, and feeling like you're invested in the lives of the people.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, 100%.
Well, I appreciate the quote from Roger Ebert because he certainly did get it.
Oh yeah.
And honestly, it's like he sets a high bar for anybody who talks about film. So, but
Mm.
Grant, how I always like to wrap up this show is I like to have my guests ask me a question. So, what would you like to ask the Wasteland Reviewer?
You know what? I got to think for a second because I was kind of hoping that would lead to something. What's your name, place of birth, dog's name, and social security number? No, I'm just kidding. Um, oh geez, what is the best movie you've seen this year that not a single person has heard of or has seen that you know of?
Actually, you know, this is pretty fresh. And
Okay.
it was a documentary that showed up in one of the AMC's near me. It only had one showtime a day.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, that's set up. And it was my wife and I and one other person in the theater. It was the disappearance of Cher Height. And I never heard of Cher Height before. I never heard of her books, the Height Reports, which
Okay.
apparently the Height Report is the 30th highest selling book ever that
Oh.
somehow never heard of. And this was a provocative, impactful, and thought-provoking documentary about a woman who did surveys and studies with women and men about their feelings about sex, intimacy, relationships, love, and how this woman was basically vilified and
Mm.
witch hunts and basically ostracized and just disappeared
Oh wow.
um, from American culture. And this movie was extremely prophetic, like talking a lot about the culture wars that are still like raging
Mm.
today. And I'm like, my God, this woman was talking about these things like 40 years ago. And it's all true. And it's all happening. And it was such an interesting film. And I can guarantee you, like, nobody has seen it. Um,
What? That actually sounds pretty good. What's it called? I'll add
It's
it to my
the
list.
it's the disappearance of Cher Height. It's Sherehite. I was like, can't wait for this to come out on VOD or something. And then all of a sudden I was checking the show times for last week and I'm like, wait a minute, this is actually in a theater. So
I'll have to check that out. That actually sounds really interesting. It kind of sounds like. Did you ever see that movie Kinsey with Liam Neeson?
well, they reference the Kinsey.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
because she came after Kinsey.
Okay. I
And
love that movie.
there's a big debate because like Kinsey was very scientific in terms of what
Mm,
he was doing, and she was insisting upon what she was doing was scientific, and then everybody else was backlash, a lot of backlash, especially from men,
mm.
who were like,
Of course.
How dare you talk about sex like this? Um, or acknowledge that we have affairs with people.
We
Um,
can talk about our penises all the time, but the second you say the word vagina, we're gonna kick you out.
which there was even a clip from her on the Colbert Report back in like '08 or something. And he's like, we're going to keep the scientific, so no mentioning of vagina, just hoo-ha, hoo-has. I'm just like, yep, that's Colbert right there.
People joke all the time about how like, oh come on, Colbert Report, that's lame satire. I'm like, I don't know. If you watched even 2 minutes of Tucker Carlson when he was on there, that's pretty much the Colbert Report.
Well, no, honestly, if you ever watch The O'Reilly Factor, it's
Oh yes,
100% accurate. So it's
it's insane.
100% true. Like 100%. Oh, he even called him Papa Bear. Like that was the joke. Call like Bill O'Reilly Papa Bear because it was
That,
like that's
God
exactly
bless that man. Like for real, like the and John Stewart, like the two of them, they've got to be. And I like Trevor. Trevor was really cool. I don't want to like diss him, but
uh
he and it wasn't his fault. He had really big shoes to fill. He's a very funny guy, but oh my god, John Stewart and Colbert. I mean, that
well,
was
it's like love Drew Carey. Like no, when somebody mentions The Price is Right, they're not gonna say Drew Carey. They're gonna say
yeah,
Bob Barker.
of
So
course. He's
it's
Barney
it's
Stinson's father. Of course, they're gonna mention him.
it's almost it's impossible to overcome some of those expectations. But yeah, so highly recommend that documentary.
Definitely.
Eventually, when it'll probably be on VOD
Who
soon.
put it out? Was it like Kino Lorber or something? Or
Oh, I feel like it was um it was IFC.
can I
So
ask
actually,
you?
you know what? It'll be on AMC Plus. The world's
Super duper.
worst. I was about to say the world's worst streaming service.
Here's AMC Plus, man. They got that's the only place you can watch BlackBerry right now. So hell
Well,
yeah.
I mean literally the streaming service. Like I had to get rid of like the actual streaming service and get the Amazon channel because how
Oh yeah, me too.
clunky and bad the
Oh, I agree.
actual streaming service is.
You know what? Here's the I well, BlackBerry will always hold a special place in my heart. It's going to be a runner up because it just isn't quite in the top 25 for me, but I love it. It's going to be on the other
Yeah.
list. I have two lists this year. Basically, it was the first movie I saw at an Alamo Draft House, and so that inherently makes it just for the pre-show alone. That they made this man talk about a blast from the past. If anyone who's ever been to Alamo Draft House, what they do is that they don't do like Maria Menounos and the newbie stuff. What they do is they do like a bunch of somebody makes like basically a short collage anthology film for you before the movie. So they'll have like I saw Bottoms there, and they did a bunch of like LGBTQ trailers of like seven like Ladies and Gentlemen, The Fabulous Stains, Fight
Mhm.
Club,
Mhm.
and um the best movie I saw at the Draft House. I've seen three movies at the Draft House. The best one was I was lucky enough when they were doing like the road shows when they would do city by cities.
Yeah.
They were going city by city for that weekend, and I was seeing Bottoms, and I was just like, "What time is the show?" He goes, "It's after Bottoms," and I'm like, "Fuck, man, I gotta go." They did. Neil Breen brought Cade the Tortured Crossing to St. Louis at the and so I was in a theater where there was not a seat unfilled and everyone was drunk as hell. And we watched Cade the Tortured Crossing. That was the single greatest theater experience I've ever had. Like, we were shouting things at the screen. I gave the movie 5 stars because it's Neil Breen. He's a genius. It's in a warped sort of. I can't. You know your movie sucks, right? You know
Yeah.
him. I think that you can't watch it unless you're over 18 because they, for some reason, they put a thing on it. But if you're able, watch his video on Neil Breen, where it's just him and his friends getting drunk and watching it, and he's like breaking down every way that his whole filmography is brilliant, and he calls him the holy alien space Jesus, the real human Breen. And so from this day forward, that is what I call him.
There you go. Yeah, my last thing I'll say is I've been to Alma Draft House once, Staten Island, so my neighbor Totoro. So
Awesome.
it was for a friend's birthday. I'm like, it was a fun time. But
Good.
Grant, thank
Yes.
you so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks. I hope I didn't talk your ear off.
Oh, trust me, I've had longer
Oh,
interviews
really?
before. If
Oh,
we were
really?
sitting here for an hour and 35 minutes, that'd be a different story because that I think is the longest episode of the show that
How
I've
long was
had.
it?
We're going on about 50. Oh, what the episode was an hour and 35 minutes.
Damn. Oh
Yeah.
man. Damn. I think I don't even have to say you're always welcome on my channel. Just hit me up, and
Yeah,
I hope you'll have me back sometime because this was really fun.
absolutely. We'll talk about it. But thank all of
Yeah.
you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.
Yeah. Thank you so much.